We have Krissy Fraser and Will, is it Broussard?
Broussard, yep.
Broussard, okay. Good morning to you both. How are you?
Good.
Great. Excellent. So you guys, some big happenings of the last year, really, for the Observatory. And I just want to send a big kudos out to Scott Henley for doing sort of like a Shark Tankish type like get money. Yeah, like he just won this huge event yesterday for a big money for the Observatory, so that's great, but you guys are all putting this to good use. Let's talk about some of the things that are in development for the Observatory. Who wants to tackle that huge topic? Will, throwing them to the...
Yeah, well, obviously we're talking about Extreme Mount Washington, which is our brand new museum project that will be live spring 2014. So this gives our summertime visitor a wintertime experience because, as we know, or we might not know, that the Summit weather station is closed or off limits in the wintertime. So the State Park, the Auto Road, the Cog Railway all close in the winter. And so some of our crazier wind and icing events happen in the wintertime. So people don't always get that experience unless they come up with us for our winter overnight trips.
Right.
So this museum is going to be giving the summertime visitor to the area kind of a more typical extreme Mount Washington wintertime.
Right, because it can get very dangerous out there when people, you know, dress inappropriately or don't have those winter mountaineering skills, as you mentioned.
Exactly.
But turning that around too, the Extreme Mount Washington gives them experience, but you guys also want them to have the experience. Your educational programs are coming into play, and the first one is actually, is it an overnight?
Sure, yeah, so we have a couple different things going on. As the outreach coordinator, I travel and give outreach programs throughout New England, so I will drive around in our Subaru vehicle, so Subaru of America is our educational sponsor, and I travel around New England and give programs basically promoting the work of the observers at the Summit Weather Station. And in addition to that, we also have distance learning programs based at the Weather Discovery Center, and that allows school groups throughout the country and throughout the world to connect to our summit of meteorologists through video conference.
Okay, so it's pretty much, it's a very similar program as far as the topics, but one they get Will.
Yep.
And then the other that it's a video conferencing, as you mentioned.
Exactly, exactly. So those are two different programs, the outreach and distance learning, and the third, which you mentioned, is our overnight edu trips. So those are winter trips, and they happen several times a winter, starting in early January, going through mid-April. And this is where you get the unique experience to come up to Mount Washington. You get a very nice ride up in our snow tractor vehicle.
It's an amazing
up
ride.
the Auto Road.
It's amazing ride.
And each of these programs has an educational theme of some kind. So the first one is winter mountaineering essentials, and that's with Joe Lentini. And he teaches you the basics of camping out, you know, outside above tree line, all the different kinds of things you need to keep in consideration when you're out in the elements in this environment, because Mount Washington is just so extreme.
It's unforgiving. It's very unforgiving, and people, I think, underestimate it because it's not the rugged 14,000-foot peaks that you can see other places in the country. You know, it's a little rounded at the top, you know, and it's not as high, but with the weather cells surrounding it, it can get pretty extreme, as you mentioned. Now, Krissy, what's coming up? You guys had a very successful Seek the Peak last year, so let's talk about that. How much money did you guys raise?
We raised over $250,000.
That's amazing.
And it's such a fantastic event, and it grows every year, and we have over 500 people register and sign up, raise money for the organization, but then they all kind of come to the valley for the weekend, and they hike any day, whatever day the weather sort of looks better, they go up and hike, and we have summit tours, and then we have this great big party after. And,
I know.
And like all the participants that reach the fundraising threshold of 200 or more get this Seek the Peak backpack, and it's filled with goodies, and they get a t-shirt. And
because EMS came as a clothing sponsor a few years ago for the Summit crew, as well as providing backpacks for Seek the Peak.
We love EMS. And we have an EMS Tech Week t-shirt in there, and it's just it's a fabulous event, and it's just like a really wonderful sort of group of people that really participate. So it's a great
You don't even have to
experience.
hike to the top of Mount Washington. There's different routes for different skill levels and abilities. Or if you can't manage the hike, you can still always raise money for it.
Right, and still participate
do not deny
in the
you that.
parties, and it's super fun. And then
Good.
So that's one of our signature events. We just had our sunset soiree, which was wonderful at the Auto Road. We
Gorgeous.
had this great dinner, and we went to the summit, and it was 70-mile-per-hour winds up there that night, and so people had a great time.
Yeah, it's dramatic.
Yeah, and then one of the other events, just speaking of the winter, is we have a New Year's Eve event on the summit.
Now, this has been going on for a couple of years, correct?
Yeah,
This New Year's
I think
Eve
it's this will be
celebration.
the 6th year. Yeah.
And this is a full-on, catered affair, right? Is this the culinary?
Yeah, we have
delight?
Ken Berry is the chef, and he's doing a shabu shabu, which is like a Korean hot pot meal.
Is that the one where you dip the stuff in? Like
he
you
gives you
boil it
all
yourself?
sorts of sliced meats and shrimp and scallops and
fun.
vegetables, and you have a
It's
little.
very social.
Yeah, it's a
As you
super.
fight to get-
I couldn't understand what it was, so I had him come and do it at my house, so I understood it. And now I'm like, I love shabu shabu. Yeah,
You
it's
must come over
fun.
to my house and cook.
Yeah, can you explain it a little more clearly? Just act it out. So those tickets are on sale now, and it's a limited event for 9 participants. It's $1,000 per ticket.
Right.
And
Well,
we have
how many
3
courses
spots
do you
left.
get? It's like a
We eat
9-course
for a few
meal.
hours, yeah. We sit and kind of it's social. This style of meal is a little bit different as opposed to having multiple courses.
True, yes,
it's more that he'll be passing down all the different things, and you sort of take your time and use the different meats and vegetables and make different mixtures, and then in the end you have this broth that's infused with all this great stuff that you've been mixing into the broth, and then he passes down some nice rice, and then you make like a soup. And
wonderful.
And dessert. I think we're going to.
Oh, I'm so hungry. You don't even know what you're doing to me right now. I didn't have any
it's fun.
breakfast.
It's super fun. It's definitely an interesting.
And then probably
approach.
champagne toast at midnight?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So people can find out more information about that online, and you can get tickets, as well as for the educational programs as well.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So mountwashington.org, and you can go to the education tab or go to the events tab, and they're all different. The events calendar has all the winter trips. There's day trips, New Year's Eve, and all the information's on there. So.
Okay, so the events are all on there, but let's talk about becoming a member. Just in general, because that's one of the driving forces behind the fundraising for the Observatory is a nonprofit member-driven organization.
Absolutely, right.
So how many members do you have? Do you know?
A little over 4,000 members.
4,000,
Yeah.
wonderful.
And
so let's up that. We can do that.
yeah.
Right here in the
And
Valley, we have more than 4,000
And
people.
the same thing, in the benefits, there's a lot of nice benefits, and one of the things that people really enjoy is they have the opportunity to go spend 1 week on the summit, and basically you go up and you cook for the observers, and you live in their quarters, and you just sort of cook and clean, but you have
cooking at altitude too.
So everything's a little bit expanded. And
Right. I've had some great meals up there, courtesy of members.
Yeah, they get a little spoiled. Those observers.
It's amazing. Now, have you ever had someone just be like, you know what I mean?
I think there's some people that go up and they say, "Can I just be the dishwasher?" And so they try to pair them with somebody that really loves to cook. And
good.
Because it. Everyone brings something different to the table.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. And you guys have the full pantry up there. I mean, it's quite an experience going in where the observers live, because the behind-the-scenes tour is all upstairs where you guys do your research. So members get the tour during the summer and fall times that they get to go behind the scenes upstairs.
Yeah.
But downstairs where the observers live, I mean, it's like a real house, but it has 6-inch thick
It's very
glass
cozy.
windows or something.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty amazing. But they had the bunkhouse and special. The whole bathroom thing is just interesting in itself, because there's no running water brought up to the summit. You all have to tank in, correct, and keep it up there in the wintertime.
I believe it used to be that way, but I think it's more modern now.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's good.
For a while, we weren't allowed to take showers or
Yeah,
anything
you're not
up
allowed
there.
to shower up there. No, you don't.
Yeah,
So that's
we're on the
good.
grid now.
Actually, it's time for
modern.
another visit for me, I guess. 'Cause,
Yeah,
so it
we'll
was
get
pretty
you up.
primitive
I
that
know,
way.
yeah.
But the rest of they play board games and have a nice library there, and it's
We've
pretty
had
cool.
a lot of volunteers or members that have been really generous, and when they've spent time up there, they've seen a need to, I don't think they need nicer couches, or I think they need a more interesting dining table. So we had a member that actually built a whole a narrow table to fit the space.
Oh, great.
But just so much generosity, sort of giving from people that support the observatory.
Well, you guys do great work up there.
People
I
support
mean,
in all different ways, yeah.
air quality research, the weather, of course, that we use here on the station. There's so many things
Product
going on, and
testing.
you've paired with UNH in the past. I don't know if you have any current projects going on, but you have students come up and do their research projects up there.
With
and
Plymouth.
Right.
In
yeah.
Plymouth,
Eric
yeah.
Kelsey is our director of research, and he's out of Plymouth. So
Out of
he
Plymouth,
shares
great.
a dual post with the observatory, and we're getting some research projects up and running
Yeah,
with him.
he's been he's working with the interns that are doing all sorts of neat research, and it's and we'll actually have the interns come down over the course of the year and do presentations across the street at the Weather Discovery Center,
Okay.
just to sort of share some of their what they've learned and stuff. So we did that recently, and it was a neat event.
Oh, cool.
It was great.
And we're almost out of time, but I also want to just touch base on, you've had some great weather observers and meteorologists on staff that have gone on to do, research on the poles and all this other, like, really fantastic stuff in, the education realm. So it's pretty cool stuff
we're
coming out of
proud.
the observatory.
Mount Washington's a great name to have on your resume before you go off to do lots of different things. So.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And what's the process for internship? Can they apply online or? Okay, good.
Yeah.
So it's easy enough.
All
Okay.
online.
So we got educational outreach and distance learning. We have the overnights starting in January. And we also have, of course, Seek the Peak. We got to get ready for that, as well as the Extreme Mount Washington Museum opening. When's that going to be happening again?
Spring 2014.
In spring, okay. 2013, or looking
14.
forward to that.
Yeah.
14, excuse me. And then the New Year's Eve celebration. They can sign up now for that because it is space limited. Did we cover everything?
Yeah, we're going to give this bag away.
And we're going to give it away. All right, do we have time? Okay, we're going to do it. So let's show the backpack that they're going to win. This is from EMS. This is the actual Seek the Peak backpack that they gave away last year to money raisers.
Yeah, and then we have all sorts of sponsors that provide different little
you got
tchotchkes
goodies.
that go in it. We took all the food out because we don't
Right.
leave the food in, but
Yeah, you don't want
but all sorts of like
All right.
sunscreen.
Great.
Yeah.
All right, so this is
Bug
going to be a good prize.
spray.
So same rules apply, 1 win per 30 days per household.
Sewing kit.
Sewing kit, I could use one of those. All right, so do we have a question? I think, Will, you were going to be put on the spot for a question.
Yeah.
Yes, we'll do.
Education guy.
Somewhat simple one. So the question is, in what year was Mount Washington Observatory founded?
Okay, in what year was the Mount Washington Observatory founded? So you can call 356-6619. I love these
Yes.
collapsible water
Subaru,
bottles. So
hooks us
smart.
up with stuff all the time. They're good.
Wonderful. Okay, so 356-6619. What year was the observatory founded? And you're going to get not only the EMS backpack, but all the stuff inside. It's like a goodie bag.
Yeah.
All right, good morning, caller. You're the first to get through. What is your guess?
I'm going to guess 1917.
No, later than that. Later than that. We're going to give them warm or cold here because we're going to run out of time. All right, good morning. Do you have a guess?
1932.
Ooh, said with authority, and that is Will?
Correct.
All right, correct. Nicely done.
Yay.
Who's on the line?
It's Pam.
Pam. Well, nice job, Pam. You just picked up an EMS backpack, Seek the Peak official backpack with lots of goodies inside. So, Pam, hang on the line and we'll get all your information. All right. So there you go, winner.
Thank
Chicken
you.
dinner.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
Well, thank you so much, Krissy. Will, thanks for joining us this morning, and good luck with all the events coming up. And website, if they'd like to find out more,
Yep, mountwashington.org.
mountwashington.org. It's easy breezy.